But going back to Justice League, Affleck did double down on his support for the Snyder Cut. So showing that he really did like Zack Snyder and he did buy into his vision. For those of you that don't know, for a little bit of context, I think this was October, right? Where was that?
What are we talking about right now?
That random ass Sunday where I'm like, dude, go on Twitter and look at all these people saying release the Snyder Cut. And we were kind of following it all day, and then eventually like Gal Gadot dropped a release the Snyder Cut post, and then all of a sudden Ben Affleck threw his hat in the ring, and suddenly it's like, is this actually?
I also think that a kid named Nick also threw out his support for it too.
Oh, did he?
I think so.
Oh, shit.
The guy's an asshole, but I like this tweet regardless.
I mean, I think I like him.
He's all right.
But they asked him about it, about that day, and he commented, he's like, he didn't even know that there was a movement on releasing Zack's cut.
Right, because I remember his tweet was just so like,
release the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I was like, there was like so much context to like other people's tweets, and his was just like release the Snyder Cut.
That was it.
It was like what's happening?
People lost their fucking mind.
He's like, what's happening? Oh, okay, cool.
But he talked about it. He goes, I didn't know about it. Zack was like, hey, they're doing this thing, and I said, Zack, I love you and I support you. However, I can help you. I do think that the movie, having two directors is a very weird thing, and for Justice League, the director had a family tragedy, and so you have a kind of cow's body with a horse's head with two directors. A lot of times, for better or worse, that's what happens. But I do think Zack's cut should be available.
I mean, again, we might go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's really fucked up. I mean, the way they treated Zack Snyder was really messed up. I do not like Batman vs Superman.
Regardless of what you think of Zack Snyder,
the way they essentially used his family tragedy to essentially cover up the fact that he had been fired.
Yes.
Is so messed up. And not just that, but the way, like, I remember seeing an interview with Chuck Robin, and he was just talking about, like, oh yeah, he had to step aside because of his family tragedy. It's just like, it's so messed up.
It's dirty.
Yeah,
it's
like
really
you're
dirty.
using this story, like using this as pretty much your reasoning for letting him go.
Right.
It's fucked up. But regardless, I may have said this once or twice, but I'm not the biggest fan of Batman vs Superman. But I do believe in essentially artists seeing their visions through. Like, I'm sure he dedicated so much time and effort into this film. Like, yeah, release it, whether it's going to be on a streaming platform or whatever. If it's gonna get like a limited run on theaters, I will go see it. I will go watch it, and it might be great. It might not be. I mean, granted, he's had so much more time now to kind of like. You can't add more to it because
you can't do your reshoot. You can't do anything, yeah.
But you can literally fine tune everything to an extent,
and which is weird too because he obviously has access to it because he's posted pictures of it on Vero.
No, it's done.
So he's I'm not questioning that's not done, but it's just the fact that like usually like that belongs to Warner Brothers. So I'm surprised that he still has like the cut in his possession.
Yeah, and I think it was something like 214 minutes, if I don't know, it's something like that.
It's
right?
a beast.
It is a beast, and I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But what I think is really interesting is just that there's been a bunch of kind of like we constantly say in the sort of day and age of all this sort of like nerd material that comes out. There's been a bunch of projects that have essentially lost a director. Fantastic Four lost Josh Trank. Han Solo lost Lauren Miller. Obviously. Star Wars, like
it also feels like it's been happening. Like this is like a new thing,
right? It happens a lot with Star Wars, which is kind of oh my god.
Yeah.
But it's the support for Snyder is insane. Like no one's out here saying release a Trank cut of Fantastic Four. No one.
Or like the David Ayer cut for Suicide Squad.
Thank you. Right. I mean? Yeah. Even though he constantly says that that's his cut, I don't buy it at all.
I think he's off of that now.
All right. Well, yeah. But yeah, the support for Snyder is crazy. It's like insane. Not to the point where I was at Comic-Con last year, I believe, and there were digital billboards on the building outside the Javits Center with this sort of like little reel and this sort of this like animation that someone did of like with the hashtag release the Snyder Cut. It's pretty much like a silhouette of the Justice League. All the stuff going on. There's kind of like there's quotes, there's some clips, and then there's the hashtag release. The fact that people are going out, like that shit is not cheap.
No,
that's fucking expensive.
Which what I'll say about it is that the whole Snyder's whole fan base has a bit of a mixture. There's a lot of people pull the negative from it because there's a lot of toxic fandom where they attack a lot of like things that aren't his. Like they do not like where DC's going. They hate the new Batman, like all this other stuff. But there's also the people that really love Snyder, but also, you know, are embracing where things have been going. And those people are the ones that have been doing the stuff with the banners, and they've raised that money through like GoFundMe.
Right.
And what they're doing is half of it is going towards promotion for the Snyder Cut, and the other half is going to suicide prevention. So it's like they're trying to, you know, have some goodwill behind it, because for Zack Snyder, obviously he lost his daughter to suicide. So that's kind of like an honor to him, you know, showing support for suicide.
That's what I'm saying. Like the support is insane.
Yeah.
Like no, it's just what I'm just saying is like the fact that we don't really get. Now we don't really have that support for like anything else. It's just kind of wild,
right?
That people really
and
just
that kind of love for a director like that.